All right, what a Monday. I mean, we think that we're coming in to talk about
The
the
biggest game of the
result.
year.
Yeah, the biggest game of the year, App State, Liberty. I don't know about you guys, but I had no idea that this was going to hit Boone and North Carolina and really all across the Southeast the way that it did. This hurricane just completely wiping out Boone and Asheville. Just crazy to see some of the videos and pictures.
I was watching a video today where they said, in Boone, like they're more prepared for snowfall.
Right.
They haven't had any type of flooding like this. Like they haven't experienced something like this. You see the videos, roads just wiped away, like basically the side of the mountain, the road is just gone.
It's a river.
The flooding, I don't know, even the day of there was a Friday, we were watching the live camera of downtown Boone underwater basically, and it just kept on coming. This isn't something that those people that have lived there have ever seen anything like this. Yeah. It's unbelievable, and obviously the game cancellation. Duh. Yeah. I mean, when you see that, it's like, absolutely. Like, that's so secondary compared to what's happening down there.
Well, and I totally agree, but I think that when the game was actually canceled, I didn't realize, oh, okay, the storm's going to hit Boone that bad. So when I see the game cancellation, I'm like, oh, I'm so bummed. But then, like you said,
the magnitude of it.
The magnitude, and just like, obviously, like the most important thing is everyone's safety, and this poor town that's going to have to, be, I don't know, like start from scratch and rebuilding, and with all, like, just our thoughts and prayers just with everyone in that area that's been affected. Yeah. But I had no idea, like when I'm tweeting this out. And I think that there's a lot of people, like, of course, we're sports minded, we're a sports show. Right. Like, we love, we want to play a game. But then when you realize what's at stake,
it's just, it is heart-wrenching to think what these people are having to go through right now. It's like, my son Jared took a visit to play college basketball at Montreat College, and which is right there. And it was completely, you've seen videos of where he was on the university, and like just to see it completely destroyed. And then, the amount of absolute pain and suffering that's going to, follow this now. And it's like, you just think of, and I know Liberty, will use the resources that they have available, and we'll talk more about that, but use the resources that they have available to them as a, the leading Christian university in the country, obviously in the world. And there's ways in which that, as crazy as this is, and as much pain and suffering as there is in this, that God always does and always will uses bad and turns it into good. And you'll see the silver lining stories. And I'm sure, Emily, one day, maybe a year or 2 years from now, you, Matt, will be in Boone or Asheville doing a story of how that community came together, and then the people reached out within Liberty and the Christian community to be able to help serve these people at an incredible time of pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do know, Liberty is involved in trying to help. LU Send is a group that, a lot of times will go in and help in these kind of situations as well. So, they're doing what they can. I know there's some things in the works possibly for the next football game as well, where folks can lend a hand. But this is something that, Liberty, when there's emergencies, when there's tragedy, when there's stuff like that, like they always do whatever they can to try to help and step up.
I know there are a lot of great organizations who are trying to get down there. God's Pit Crew out of Danville, sending truckloads of supplies and anything that they can do to help. Boone is the headquarters where Samaritan's Purse is. Been trying to get in contact. That's another thing. Like, you're trying to contact people, and the cell service, no internet, no power. It's just been really difficult. But we wanted to learn through Samaritan's Purse how else you can help in this time of need. We're now joined by Samaritan's Purse Chief Operating Officer Edward Graham. He oversees the international and domestic operations of those impacted by catastrophic events. This one happening where Samaritan's Purse headquarters is located. Edward, try to describe the devastation that you're seeing in Boone, North Carolina right now.
Yeah, well, thanks, Emily, for having me. It's hard to put in words. I've been born and raised here and came home about 6 years later after moving away from the military, and I've never seen flooding like this. Hurricane Hugo is kind of the benchmark we've always used. and this just trumps Hugo. The old timers will talk about the 40s, and they say it was worse than that. This is bad. You're watching entire communities gone, devastated, so bad so that even our medical systems needed help. We've set up not just our normal disaster relief we do all the time that Samaritan's Purse may be known for, but we're also set up some medical capabilities here at the Watauga Hospital. We set up an oxygen station and tent with staff there because people couldn't recharge and didn't have power to their oxygen system, so they were coming to us. And then we did the same thing in nearby Avery County. Now Avery County has asked for a Tier 1 hospital, and we're setting that up there to help deal. Avery is going to be it was decimated, and it's just these narrow valleys. When this much water comes in, it destroys large parts of communities built alongside of them, and it's hard to watch. But I tell you what, this morning we had a couple hundred volunteers show up at my local church to start going out just here in Boone, and hundreds went out. I think it was over 350 volunteers went out, and that started also in Asheville, North Carolina, where we're headquartered and set up there at the Billy Graham Training Center along I-40. We're also in Perry, Florida, Tampa, Florida, and Valdosta, Georgia. Volunteers all going out today. So even though we're crawling out ourselves with staff being hurt by this and staff that lost their homes, they're already getting after it.
Heartbreaking to hear, but great to hear that. Usually, though, you're traveling to these disaster areas, this one happening in your own backyard. How is it different going through this tragedy personally, as well as seeing your other loved ones go through it as well?
Yeah, I just left, I'm dressed this way because I just left the house a little while ago down the street, and this is someone that I grew up with, and his wife works with us in Operation Christmas Child, and his mother and father helped start Fellowship of Christian Athletes with my mother here, and Coach Mac Brown, when he was at App State, they started AFCA together. And so to go through their house and to look at it and to see it, it breaks your heart. It does. This is family and friends. And so it's hard to stay focused. But remember, we're also responding all over the world. I'm in Samaritan's Purse is in 20 different countries. We're responding in the Middle East, working there in Israel. We're in Ukraine. We're trying to feed displaced people in Sudan from the fighting there, and we got teams working hard. So we need to support our teams forward, but we also got work to do here. But God gives us the best people, the best resources to be able to respond. He gives us the best volunteers. We need volunteers. So if you got people listening, interested, they can go to Samaritan's Purse website, and they can drop down and figure out how they can get involved. But to be honest, I was supposed to be at the App State Liberty game this week, that all changed. I've got a great relationship with the App State coaches. They love the Lord. We do a Bible study every Wednesday night. That's a tradition that's been going on for 30 years before I ever came home. They got some great coaches and great players. The players, there's about 30 of them that meet for Bible study. So it was going to be a great football game, and that all changed just like that. So it lets you know how fleeting things can be.
Right. This is much bigger than football. And you mentioned the hundreds of volunteers that showed up this morning. How else are you seeing the Lord at work during such a devastating time?
Yeah, we work and we go to meet the immediate needs, and we want people to know they're loved and not forgotten, that they're not forsaken. The most important part of what we do is to share the gospel. I'm not interested in good works. I'm not interested in charity. But God gives us this equipment and resources, and it opens doors. And my wife just called me about a great conversation. I won't go into too much details, but it's someone that never would have normally asked for a work order or asked for help, but they saw us next door, and his wife was on oxygen. And then they were able to go to bless and serve that one individual. There's going to be multiple stories like that. And I think this is where you're going to see sometimes in the greatest tragedy and the great loss, people will learn to truly surrender their lives and hearts over to the Lord. And so that's my prayer. And all that we do and all that happens, even in this great loss, God gets their glory.
You mentioned if there's anyone that can volunteer, come down. Be more specific. How can they learn more about volunteering? And for those who can't have feet on the ground down there in Boone, North Carolina, how can we donate?
Yeah, so you can go to spvolunteer.org, and you can sign up in any of those locations I talked about down in Florida, here in North Carolina, or in Georgia. Or you can go to the Samaritan's Purse website, and that's SamaritansPurse.com, and they'll be dropped down on how to get involved. I really want people praying. If they can't volunteer, of course, be praying no matter what. And we'll find other ways on how you can get involved with Samaritan's Purse on the website.
Well, Edward, thank you so much for your time. Flames Nation is praying for all of you. Thank you again for your hard work and service all around the world to help others. For all of us here at Liberty, we look forward to coming together and doing our part as well.
Thanks for having me. Remember, I played soccer at Liberty too, so I do love Flames Nation.
So technically, go Flames.
Yeah, go Flames. I played 1 year there, so you can claim me just a little bit.
We'll take what we can get. Thanks again.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
You know, when I was talking to try to line up a call with Samaritan's Purse, I was talking to Gabby, and she said, you know, it's so different when that tragedy happens in your backyard.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's so true, you know, like they help so many people around the world. And sorry, fantasy football. I'm saying that's horrible timing. Horrible timing. But sorry about that. I didn't have my phone on.
She just traded Joe Burrow.
Yeah. No, hey,
but
yes.
that tragedy in your backyard, they're helping so many
Yes.
people. But you know that everyone's going to come together to help those that are affected with Samaritan's Purse and all in that
Absolutely.
community.
And I want to correct something I said earlier. It's LU Serve Now is the organization here within
Don't
Liberty.
study abroad.
Yeah,
Matt's not trying to get
studying
everyone.
abroad.
Not LU
It's a lot of moving parts here.
That's
LU
right.
Serve Now is working, I'm sure, to help this. They're kind of the emergency relief team.
And Alcova Mortgage is
Yeah.
also helping in this time of need.
And the owner of our company, Bobby, nicely sent out. We have Alcova people because our headquarters is out of Roanoke, and we have branches in North Carolina, Alcova people within our own Alcova family that have been affected by this flooding and the hurricane and everything. But Bobby nicely, our owner, had sent out an email today just stating that he once again just outlined Samaritan's Purse,
Yep.
and then God's Pit Crew. So those two things are where he is. Having anybody who has been served by Alcova within the company or clients that we have, or just, Liberty family, because we really do. Liberty obviously supports us. We support Liberty. And those two organizations, Samaritan's Purse, God's Pit Crew, please, if you have the opportunity or are able to give, those are two great organizations to give to.
One more thing, former Liberty player Brendan Schlittler, he and his wife, I was just texting with him, they're actually gathering up food, water, as well as supplies, and they're, I think, down in the North Carolina area as well. But as he said, this weekend, or as soon as they're able to get through, they're gathering a bunch of stuff to take and drop off as well. So he said, I can't suit up on Saturdays anymore. Might as well make a difference like this. So there you see a former Liberty football player down there. He and his wife just trying to do whatever they can. And I'm sure there's many stories like that we don't know about.
Yeah.
And as hard as these times are, the amazing part about all of this is you see those people that show up, and you see how people help each other and come together in a time like this, whether they're App State fans or Liberty fans. How many times have you seen when a tragedy happens, opposing fan bases all coming together to donate money or do whatever they can to help each other? And so I'm sure there'll be many stories like that to come from this.
Yeah. Our thoughts and prayers, like I said, are with all of those families and people down there who were affected by that awful hurricane. Shifting gears now back to the football field. And this is not, like we said multiple times, the most important thing. But when a game like this is canceled, there are questions from the fan base, like what's going to happen? Is that game going to be rescheduled? We have no information on that as of now. Obviously, I'm sure the people at App State have much bigger concerns than rescheduling a football game, which we completely understand. But for like the Liberty fan base and all of that moving forward, this is going to impact the Flames in terms of the playoffs and all of that. Can't reiterate enough. From this point on, we are fully understanding that this is not the most important
Let me say
thing.
this. We don't know a lot about disaster relief. I think hopefully we know more slightly maybe about the football side. So we'll get back into what we feel like we're here to talk about. And then hopefully what people want to hear about too. When there's tragedy like this, sometimes it's nice to be able to focus on other things. And so this is what we do.
Right. And the reality of the situation, Matt, you mentioned it before we started taping. With this game cancellation, the Flames will play one game, which is on October 8th, hosting FIU.
Yeah.
Actually, before we get to that point, I was, like thinking about rescheduling this game with App State.
Right.
And it was at App State.
Right.
So if you have that game back at App State, I saw somebody tweeting from Boone, I don't know how App State is going to have a home game
I don't know how they
the
can do
rest
it.
of the season.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
How do you bring 40,000 people
I
into
just don't
Boone?
see that happening at
so
all.
I just don't see it happening either. Like when you look at these videos and when all of the water gets out of this city, like how in the world are you going to bring 40,000 people, even if it's in that open week? They both have the open week. Why can't we reschedule it? That is like where you see some fans online.
Even if you're saying, I don't know what the stadium situation is, it would probably be more like a COVID game because, like you said, you can't bring that many people into the city in the condition that it's in based on what we've seen.
Yeah, and I've got a feeling too from App State's point of view, it's like, man, we have such big problems on our hands that it just logistically is not going to work out. I mean, who knows? I'm not saying it won't, but I'm just saying who knows. And if it doesn't, 1,000% completely understand.
And if taking away the damage from all the water and all that and just focusing on football related stuff, like Liberty is way more motivated. They need this game way worse than App State needs this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
App State's lost a couple of games. They're not in that playoff conversation.
Right.
They're just focusing on conference play and trying to
Keep
win
their
something.
team together. Right.
Liberty, you have to have this game. Like we talked at the beginning of the year, strength of schedule, and you heard that last year, and so many people nationally, when it comes to Liberty, that's what they focus on. This was one of the very few games that you looked at and said, this game makes this schedule decent, right? This game is a good opponent that helps the strength of schedule. And so if you're Liberty, you had to have it. Yeah. You don't get it, I think, and I've been reading some of the national guys as well, the Vaninis and those folks, and I think we're all kind of in agreement on this. You don't get this game,
even if you went
you run the table, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like in terms of the playoff conversation, just because Conference USA is not helping your strength of schedule with what they've done in the non-conference and what it appears like the league is across the board.
That being said, let's give a shout out to Sam Houston.
Sam Houston's an exception.
Houston, last second field goal make to beat Texas State.
Yep.
And I mean, I saw a stat. It was like they started 1-8 or something last year. Now they're 7-1 in their last.
And you know what? They're starting to win some of those close games that they couldn't close out, a year ago. So that was good for them. Not as good on the other side for Western Kentucky. They had Boston College.
They had them.
They're leading in the fourth quarter. Boston College's starting quarterback didn't play. So advantage Western Kentucky there. It was actually an FIU transfer that was starting for Boston College at quarterback. Western Kentucky leading and gave it up in the fourth quarter. I think it was 14-0 run for Boston College.
When I turned it on.
Yeah, and so that would have been a really nice win for Western Kentucky. Instead, they dropped that one in. And really, when you look across the league, it appears that it's Liberty, Western Kentucky, Sam Houston. Like coming out of this portion of the schedule, those appear to be the good teams, and then there's a whole lot of everybody else.
Right. Yeah, I was just looking. FIU topped La Tech. Memphis beat Middle Tennessee. New Mexico
beat New Mexico State. New Mexico State's changed quarterbacks. I don't know if that was an injury thing or just play thing. I don't know, but it's.
So that'll be. And then Jack State. I guess they had a bye.
Yeah.
I guess they had a bye last week, so they haven't been what the standard was going in those preseason rankings. Okay, so back to what we were saying in terms of now we turn the page to midweek on the mountain with these midweek games for season.
It's midweek on the mountain, baby.
It's midweek on the mountain, but like you said, this is like
one game in 32
kind of
days.
The bye week, so it's one game in 32
Joe, how do you
days.
keep? Maybe take me into what your philosophy would be. You have to keep these guys locked in when you play once in over a month.
Right.
That's wild.
Like how do you do that? Do you completely shake things up? Do you go back to doing, like part of me, I was thinking about it today. I was walking by and they're practicing out there. I'm like, I might go back and do some like kickball games. Like I might go back to some of those, for real though, some of those summer bonding kind of things. Because you have such a long stretch here. I don't know if you can just line it up and practice like you normally would given these circumstances.
I think with this kind of break, like I always felt when I played, right? If you had an off week, sometimes it was more so when I was playing in Canada, they would give us, 4 days off like in a row in an off week.
Yeah,
And
no
then
practice.
no practice, like you're away from the facility, like just get away, right? When you came back from that, it always felt different. As I remember, it took you a couple days of practice, like just to get back in the groove, because you're so used to an in-season routine. Like you know what your schedule is week in and week out. So I always felt that was weird. I think with this much of a break, that there is a place for what you're saying with some of that. But honestly, I think like one, it does help some guys you got pretty banged up, gets the opportunity to get them healthy, very much, even more so than a bye week, obviously, because you're getting back to back. But the other thing is too, I think where you have the opportunity to lose is maintaining your shape.
Yeah.
So I think there's got to be a concerted effort, like in the weight room with Chad Scott and in the conditioning program, right? It's like that's so you can keep these guys running, you can keep moving, and you can stress their bodies more from a workout side than necessarily just the same practice routine where you're hitting and whatnot. So, so there's a way to do it, but it's to me, I've always felt like with this type of break, you pull back from the practice side of things, and then obviously the week again, you ramp it back up, but like get some good workouts in.
Yeah.
Really
wait, are you talking to me or the
well,
team?
all of us. We probably all could use
I mean, I took 2 weeks off. I feel like this button's hanging on for dear life.
Right.
Yeah.
We're looking at
just screaming.
We're looking at one workout in the next 32 days. Is where we're at right now. Yeah.
Hey, that's goals for me right now. So, and it's not only just like how do you keep that just mindset and motivation in these next like 32 days, but how does that affect the mindset if you can't make the playoffs? Like if that.
I feel like
So I feel like that makes it even worse. Like you lose this game. I guess control what you can control.
That's it. That's what you have to. And I'm sure that's the message from Jamie Chadwell at this point is, listen, maybe the ultimate goal, maybe that's not going to be a possibility, but you can still run the table here. You can still win a conference championship. There's still so many things out there. And honestly, we could have beat App State, run the table, and still not. So you couldn't control that. What you can control is just that weekly effort that you put in.
That's a good point.
Even if you run the table, you win another conference championship, how amazing would that be? And you go to a really good bowl game. Like no one's sitting here saying, "Oh, this is a lost season." Like nobody's saying that. Like you can still accomplish so much. And I'll go back to what Joe said early on. This was before the Fiesta Bowl, early last season, maybe before last season. You said, if you want to be considered a national contender, if you want to be considered the Boise States of the world that have risen from that, mid-level to now people take them seriously every year, you have to do it year over year over year. And you may not get what you want the first year, which Liberty actually did. We got in, right? We got in. Things broke right. We got into the Fiesta Bowl.
And
you may not
smacked,
this season. You may go undefeated and not get what you want, but you keep doing that, and then people view you differently. And so when it comes to the polls, when it comes to all of those things, you have that body of work. It shouldn't be what you did 3 years ago or 2 years ago or 1 year ago, but it is. Like that's part of it. That's how people view you as a program.
Yeah.
And so whether or not you make the playoff this year, just putting yourself in there again and showing we did it again. Right. We won another conference championship. That puts you in a different level.
Because here's the thing is that as you do try to reach those levels, is what eventually happens from Jamie Chadwell's point of view and the motivation of the team is this. 12-0 last year, undefeated regulars, 13-0, whatever it was. Undefeated regular season Conference USA championship, right? Undefeated season.
Yeah.
You do the same thing this year, okay? You go to Oregon, you have to play Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl last year, right? You get beat pretty badly. So it shows to the nation, okay, they're not ready. Right? And so then you back that up with another undefeated season, and everybody's going to do what on a national level? Oh, they did in Conference USA. Okay, they didn't play App State, who was one of the better teams in their schedule, and they did it in Conference USA, but they go undefeated 12-0. Well, here's the key. If you're Ian McCaw and you're looking at bowl matchups, you don't get in the playoffs, and bowl matchups. If you can get a team with another large brand name, an Oklahoma or somebody, whoever it is, somebody like that who's had a good season, but maybe their they're 9-3 or 8-4 or something like that, right? And now you go play them in a bowl game, and you say, okay, we played Oregon, we got beat pretty handily. Now we go and play Nebraska, whoever, Oklahoma, and oh man, even like, oh, you beat them, awesome, but now it's a 28-25 game, right? You got beat, but okay, now you can start saying Liberty's name within the conversation, and then you just keep chugging in next year. And then the other thing too, with all the conference alignment stuff going on, who knows where it goes? But you part of the problem is like, it's what you said there. It was like, if you're not in the playoffs, like, oh, it's a bust. No,
it's not playoff or bust.
No, it's not playoff or bust by any means. This is part of the process of getting your respect on a national level. So you should be highly motivated to go
honestly,
undefeated.
Joe, there should be like less than 5 teams in the country that have a playoff or bust mindset. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like there are not many of those. There are not many of the programs that should go in. Like they're like that's not realistic. You know what I mean? Like for a fan base, I'm talking about.
And you're not even talking just mid majors.
No, I'm talking like there's like Alabama, there's Georgia, Ohio State. After that, like it starts getting difficult.
And here's the I think a problem that college football is going to have to deal with, and what I've noticed is there is more parity with a large group of teams because of the transfer portal, right? So the teams that were, they were always going to get beat by a bigger team or a bit more of a brand name team. That table's starting to turn because they're getting a lot of those kids that were on the bench that not are getting a shot, right? So everybody, college football as a whole has gotten better. With that being said, the downside is, when you watch Georgia, Alabama play the other night, right? You watch Georgia, Alabama, and you have these teams with massive NIL budgets, right? They are going to yank the best players in the country, period, end of conversation, right? So when you look at that, those two teams play each other, and then you look at maybe like the 8th team, right? It's not even close. And so that's where I think it's going to be difficult, because it's just what you said. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, obviously the Michigans who won it. Like there's a group there that they're just going to be heading come playoff time when they are fired up and they feel as if they can win a national championship and there's no opt-outs for the NFL. Like you're going to see the level of play even within those teams rise further, and they're in a whole nother world than even a lot of the teams that will make the 12-team playoff.
So, and we've said this before about Liberty, like, okay, let's say you run the table this year, you do get that playoff bid, and then you get slaughtered, That
was one of our questions, our mailbag questions.
Then I'm like, I don't know. Like, to me, I wouldn't want that to happen. Yes, we kind of voted last year, like, would you want to make a Fiesta Bowl and then not win? Or would you want to, like, a kind of mediocre bowl? So that conversation gets brought back in terms of, I think that it's better for the Flames to go the route of, let's go to a decent bowl. Let's run the table, win CUSA, and then, like build up to the playoff, like you're saying. Because if you go to the playoff and 2 years in a row, you get embarrassed like that, I just feel like, and that makes it sound like I don't have faith in this coaching staff and these players, because I do.
The point you're making is a very good point.
It's very good point. If that happens 2 years in a row, I just fear that no one's going to respect Liberty, even though they're not supposed to look at those past years. They're just not moving forward. I just fear that they're not going to take the Flames seriously, that they're ever going to be able to compete at that level.
As a competitor, you want the playoff. As a competitor, absolutely. You don't go in like, yes, if you know the result beforehand and say, oh boy, it's going to be really one-sided and maybe it would have been better, but like you'll take your chances. Like we'll take our chances. We'll take our chances every year against the Oregons and whatever. Like you keep going, you keep knocking on that door and you hope you break through. But all I'm saying is
you learn from this.
It's not such a huge downside to the other option that you mentioned. Like that's not like, we have to go to the Peach Bowl, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Isn't that terrible?
Like I want to go to the Chick-fil-A Bowl.
Just put in context how far this program's come. And we've said it time after time after time. Again, just step back and think about, where were we 10 years ago?
Right.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and where are we now? Yeah. So, like, in the grand scheme of things, that's why it goes back to take care of what you can take care of. Because we say all this, if you lose 3 games the rest of the way.
Yeah, no kidding.
We're having a whole different conversation.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know what I mean?
Let me tell you, people,
could
not
easily happen.
only are there lessons in losing, but there is a way to find joy in the journey.
Wow, that was
That's
really
here.
good. That was like your Delilah voice almost. That was really good.
Emily Austin.
That's
You like that?
Yeah.
And that's unbelievable.
I've left speechless right
Oh
now.
my gosh.
That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen with
We
me very
did.
often.
No.
Emily Austin. Okay, so yeah.
I have
guess
FIU preview if you do want to jump.
you-
'Cause-
Really?
Well, our next show is after the FIU game.
Yes, that is a
next
good
podcast.
reminder. Good timing. That next podcast will be Wednesday. So no podcast on whatever next Monday, October, I don't even know. 7th.
7th. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks,
7th.
Doug. And,
Doug's on the calendar.
One more thing we need to get to in just a little bit. Former Flame Kendi Charles is going to call in about his
stop.
big win on
Just stop. Just stop.
I had
his
nothing
big
to do with that.
win with
Joe,
Duke.
yeah, I had nothing.
I did send. I was on the call for that.
Joe was
game.
on the call. UNC
Yeah,
Duke.
I was on the call game, and Kenny Charles played really well. His name
Did you see the video of him with the bell after the game?
Oh my gosh.
The bell, the
it's
handle's going
hilarious.
around, and he tried to grab it like 12 times.
It's
and missed
hilarious.
No, he
every
didn't.
single- Yeah, because it's going around, and he's
Yeah.
trying to. It was hilarious.
It's good.
That was a wild game.
I'll
It was a
show you
wild game.
after I have it pulled up right here.
When I was playing at UNC, we had the bell back, right? So Steve Spurrier was there in 1989, right? So that was my freshman year. And they beat the brakes off of us in Chapel Hill, and they took a picture underneath our scoreboard on our field with the bell, and like that really cheesed us off, right? So the next year, next 3 years, we kicked the living snot out of
Yeah,
them.
that's good.
And so we used to have the bell in our locker room, and so I used to get this is pretty funny. I used to get on the bell, right? I'd stand on the bell in the locker room like whatever in December, and the bell's in there the whole time, and I would jump on it and I would start spinning, ringing it like that. And at first, everybody on the team like would be like, "Yeah, get him, yacht! Yeah, we got the bell!" Right? And then I'd stop. And then I'd start ringing it again. They're like, "All right, y'all, that's enough."
Yeah.
Right? and then I would just keep ringing. And then they're like, "Yeah, get off the bell, you're driving me crazy." It was so funny.
That's great.
Okay, so yes, I guess we do need an FIE preview. I feel completely unprepared because does this
Good
mean
news
that
is
we
we're
have?
not calling it, so you don't really have to be prepared.
Well, no.
CBS.
I'm talking about my bold prediction.
Oh, like take a second to think about that.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, obviously all of our bold predictions, Flames Fantasy League, no movement over the last week.
Refreshing my fantasy league.
2-2 is FIU. They are coming off a loss against they beat Louisiana Tech on Saturday, which Louisiana Tech, that they're in a sad state right now. But FIU has beaten Central Michigan. They've beaten Louisiana Tech. They lost in their opener to Indiana. They lost at home to FCS Monmouth. That was a bad one.
Yeah.
That was at Pitbull Stadium.
Ouch.
So they'll be coming here. Their offense is not real good. 107th in the nation in total offense, 117th converting on third down, only 29%. And then here's the stat that should have FIU fans scared to death. They are 108th in the nation in rush defense.
Oof.
They give up 186 yards a game on the ground. And so that you say, playing this Liberty team that should be healthy. You give Quentin Cooley a little extra time to get right, which he was still great against ECU. That's scary. That's not good. Kewan Jenkins is their quarterback. He did some good things last year against us. And he flashes every once in a while, but it hasn't looked super pretty.
It's just one of those things, like when you give guys, or not give them, obviously, they've had this much time off, like maybe they'll be a little rusty, or maybe they're going to be coming out of those gates like ready to play because it's been so long. Yeah. So that's where my bold prediction is kind of running into it.
I think the one really positive thing that will come out of this long delay is giving the offensive line more time to really gel together, because I mean you can get a lot of reps with, like, when you have a week of practice, you get 2-3 days where you're really getting after it, really 2 days, but you can only go through so many looks. Like there's only so much time to go. So now it gives Bill Durkin time to really get into the details of, like, here's all the blitz protections, here's our run blocking schemes, here's the fronts we can see, here's how we can see a front seven. You can go through everything over and get a lot of reps, a lot of looks to really mentally clarify a lot of things for
And
the
then like the
offensive
John Paul
line.
Flores,
Yeah.
who had just
Right.
come back
Yeah.
and give him, make sure he's good. Maybe a Jay Hardy, who was kind of,
Yeah.
how healthy is he? Get him. Even a Juju Gray, who
Yeah.
hasn't played since early on. We heard he'd been progressing. Perhaps he'll be ready by the time the FIU game
Trayon
comes
Sibley
around.
was banged up a little
Sibley
bit.
had been banged up in the ECU game. So,
Right.
yeah, in terms of health, it's great. Physically, I think this is good for them.
Yeah.
It's mentally that I think you worry more about if you're Jamie Chadwell.
Yeah.
So I wrote the scripts for the show last week, and in the last block, we do the Flames fantasy for the Flames Central show.
Yeah.
And I wrote, Rhett was filling in for me, and I wrote like, yeah, I'm not in the league, but I'm rooting for Emily to, have a comeback and take
Rhett
down.
said that?
And Rhett never said it.
He didn't say it.
He didn't
Rhett
say
wouldn't
it.
say that.
And then even in the script, I wrote, Matt and Joe, the only way they can beat Emily is to cheat because they didn't let her replace
Rhett is
Copeland.
too honorable of a person to say something like that.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Gosh.
What about Rhett and Pat and the crew packing up the
ECU night?
on the ECU night? They packed up set.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
and they,
when-
they left
when-
us to do the post game show.
When Joe said, we have to listen to that interview again. I'm like, Matt, can you tell Joe that I can hear him? That was
the best
so
part of that interview
amazing.
was when Emily goes, Coach, I know it's been a long night. I'll make this short and sweet.
And then I talked
30
for
minutes
4
later,
minutes.
it's like, yeah.
And then
Are we
Todd
doing the
Wetmore.
press conference right now?
Yeah, Todd Wetmore is not happy with me on that. Okay, so I guess we need to do bold predictions.
Yeah.
And
I
then
can start if you guys want to.
I heard that with canceled games, Emily gets a 10
Oh, stop.
No.
a 10-point bonus on the Flames fantasy.
Jeff Snell has not approved that. Oh, fantasy? No.
No, gosh. All right. Well, bold predictions.
Let me start us off.
Okay.
My bold prediction will be 34-24 LU. I think the rust, a little bit of that, like, can they get juiced up for this game? I think it's closer than we think it'll be. And in the end, Liberty does just enough to win 34-24. I do think they'll pick off 3 passes and 4 sacks. Is that bold enough? 3 interceptions,
That
4
was
sacks?
literally
Yes.
my bold prediction
stop.
last week. And you idiots.
No, I don't. Whoa! What is this?
Sorry. Not Alex.
I'm
remove that
wow,
word.
I'm a sensitive
no,
guy.
No.
I'm a sensitive guy in that hurt.
I wouldn't blame you if you just walked off the set right now.
If
Joe.
we had it,
That-
like, if we had somebody that actually, like, I don't have the time,
Wow.
but I know that I said that a couple weeks ago, and you guys looked at me like, you're an idiot, Emily. Wow,
use
that's
that word.
really
No,
bold.
we would never use language like that on this show. So frankly, I'm taken aback right now by that. I don't even know.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you
Wow.
guys idiots.
It's like Will Ferrell on Wedding Crashers. Like, it's such an idiot.
Yeah.
Sorry. Do I need to, like,
I don't know, Em. I don't know.
No, that's
gosh, you guys
Yeah.
can gang up on me all
That's
the
a
time.
good bold prediction. Did you say
you.
4
guys
sacks
are-
and 3 interceptions? That's
Yeah.
very bold.
Yeah,
but
thank
you know what? If you want
I
to get,
literally,
Emily, think about
literally
it.
said that same bold prediction you guys.
Did you really?
No,
No, we
guys-
did. Nobody would ever.
You guys said, whoa.
That's bold.
That is bold.
No, okay.
Joe,
listen,
what do you
okay, listen. I'm gonna go bold.
Okay, do it.
I mean, I'm going.
you are.
I'm going bold.
Yes. Here we go.
How do you like your coffee? Bold.
Right.
How do you like your bold predictions? Bold.
Right.
Right.
Okay,
I'm
let's
going
get
with
on.
the flame.
He's ringing the bell right now.
I'm ringing the bell right now. I'm going with the Flames defense. Shutout.
Oh.
Shutout.
Whoa.
0 points scored.
What?
So hey,
So-
Kyle Krantz, Skylar McGee,
Yeah.
So what's your
Help your
score?
boy.
step up to the plate.
Hey, what's your final score? 30 to 3?
Yeah. Going off of Emily's, it'll be a
Okay.
27-17. Liberty defense pitches a shutout.
Liberty pitches a shutout.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna go. Liberty scores 4 touchdowns.
Oh wait, so now you're not going
Liberty,
shutout?
Liberty scores 4 touchdowns.
Okay.
FIU scores 3 touchdowns. Liberty wins 28-14.
Yeah. It just
I'm sorry.
every
no,
week. No,
I'm
stay with shutout.
I'm staying with the shutout.
Stay
Stay
with
with
the
shutout.
shutout.
Kyle Krantz, Skylar McGee.
Yeah.
Don't tell me how rough the seas are. Just bring the ship to port. 0. Goose egg. Shutout.
Yeah.
Nada.
What's the final score?
24-0.
24. Okay, so yeah, a little shaky offensively, or not quite.
I mean,
yeah.
24. I mean, that's
I
not
mean,
shaky.
Well,
I'm gonna go 30-13 Liberty. Cooley scores 3 touchdowns.
oh, that's not bold.
That's bold.
I mean,
3 touchdowns.
He's done
is
that
bold.
already this
No,
season.
but
How
that's
bold
still
is?
bold.
I mean,
Okay, that means
He rushes
I'm going to
for
defend you now.
over
I'm
150.
defending you now.
150?
Okay,
150?
that's pretty bold.
Okay.
There's not very often that 2 running back scores 3 touchdowns in 2 different games in a season, so that's bold.
Thank you.
That's bold.
Thank you.
I'm gonna
And he
start
rushes
sticking.
for over 150.
I'm going to start sticking up for
Okay.
you.
All right. I don't like this.
Which I really
Okay,
don't-
any
which I really don't
mailbag?
like.
If you want to
no
be a part of
mailbag.
the show,
thought
you
you
can
said
do
you had a
so.
mailbag.
No, that we brought up a mailbag question about like the would you want to go to a good bowl or the best bowl, whatever.
I can't tell you real quick. I just did get an email from LU Serve. So we did send email the right guy. We were worried about that. Saying they're recruiting students right now to go on these trips to help those folks throughout the country in hurricane relief. So Liberty is.
Do they have a place to give? Do you know? Like, is there? A place
I would say typically Liberty works with Samaritan's Purse. So I would say focus there. That's
SamaritansPurse.org.
There you go.
Is the site to
Official.
go. SamaritansPurse.org is the special to go to.
But
Yeah,
yes,
if you
so
can't
students are being
physically go-
recruited for these response trips as we speak.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that update. If you can't go and actually volunteer, please give SamaritansPurse.org and just really any of those organizations that are doing all that they can to help. If you want to be a part of the show in the future, flamecentral@liberty.edu.
Yeah.
Send us your questions, concerns, comments, anything,
Critiques.
and critiques, and we'll send you a mug. Still haven't found the time to make that mug.
Oh, I did get this one. Let me add this. We did get one mailbag thing last week.
Oh boy.
This is from our buddy Bruce. He said,
Bruce?
Bruce, since we have 3 more home games and Emily seems to be the most knowledgeable meteorologist on the podcast,
That's fair.
he said,
That's a
could
fair
we
statement.
supply the podcast listeners with her cell phone number so they can get updates during the next weather delay? Absolutely, Bruce. 434. No, I'm kidding.
Oh
No,
my gosh, can you imagine?
That's the last thing Emily
I already,
needs. Yeah.
and then I still text everyone in the stadium
Yeah.
and you and not Joe.
Not Joe. Leave him off the
He'd
group.
be-
And just because of that, the number is 6.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got it right here.
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, just a reminder, we will be on next Wednesday following that FIU game.
Yes.
We were not on the call. That's in CBS's hands. Thanks so much for listening or watching. For Joe and Matt, Emily, we'll see you next Wednesday.